In the first scene of the movie, Maddie Barker's car is being towed away by Gary, a tow truck driver. Having had in a relationship with Gary before she ghosted him, Maddie comes out and tries to win him over. Another guy she hung around with the night before comes out in his undies and gropes her, ruining her attempts. Maddie objects, saying that she works as an Uber driver, but Gary takes the car away. Rollerblading to catch up with Gary, Maddie comes to a stop when he tries to pay for breakfast at a nearby diner. The automobile is still tied to the truck as she tries to lower it and drive away, so she awkwardly tries to pull out until Gary raises the car back up. Because of her acts, Maddie is ultimately placed under arrest, placed on probation, and informed that she owes a significant amount in back taxes and could perhaps lose her home. Maddie also works as a bartender at a waterside place in Montauk, New York, where she has lived all her life. She works with her best friend Sarah and hangs out with her and her husband Jim. Maddie is noted by her boss as having an attitude when she gets into an argument with a customer who tries to buy a drink before the bar is open. On their break, Sarah shows Maddie a job listing from a rich family asking for someone to date their son before he goes off to college, and in exchange, they are giving away a Buick Regal. Maddie realizes date means sex but decides to go along with it because she has no other options, and she wants to exploit the rich since they're taking her house. The following day, Maddie rides a rollerblade along a road to the Becker family's house, where she meets Laird and Allison, the parents. They talk about their adolescent son Percy, who will be attending Princeton in the fall but who is quite clumsy and reserved and doesn't have many friends. He also spends most of his time playing video games in his room. They had hoped for someone more in line with Percy's age, 19 versus 32, but Maddie persuades them that she is the ideal candidate for the position. But Laird and Allison assure Maddie that Percy isn't supposed to be aware of their arrangement. Laird and Allison tell Maddie to find Percy working at a dog shelter. She wears a form-fitting dress to attempt to seduce him and pretends to want to adopt a dog. Percy shows her a former police dog named Milo that was let go from the force for becoming addicted to cocaine. Percy starts to get nervous as Maddie comes on too strong and tries to leave early, but Maddie offers him a ride home after borrowing Jim's van. When she brings Percy to her house, he pulls out a can of mace and sprays her in the face. After Maddie painfully explains that she just thought he was attractive, Percy says he just wants to go on a proper date, to which Maddie agrees. Maddie later brings the van back to Jim and Sarah, telling them that Percy is unfable. That night, Maddie takes Percy to a pub where she knows the waiter and orders him an iced tea from Long Island, which he despises. Travis, who was reportedly once in a relationship with Maddie, shows up, declaring that Maddie walking out on him was the nicest thing that had ever happened to him. He flashes his wedding band and cautions Percy against being too connected to her. Afterwards, Maddie goes with Percy to the beach for a skinny dipping session. While he is reluctant, Maddie coaxes him to join her. Minutes later, 3 drunk teens show up and steal their clothes, which contain their wallets, phones, and keys. So Maddie emerges from the water completely nude and proceeds to fight all 3 teens, 2 guys and a girl, before they relent and give her back their stuff. When Maddie goes back in the water, Percy is disturbed by her violent confrontation with the teenagers and tells her there is something wrong with her. Maddie walks out of the water, gets dressed, goes to her car to start it and drive away, but Percy is still nude and demands his phone back. When Maddie won't give it back, he hops onto the hood of her car, and she proceeds to drive with him hanging on, stark nude. The cops see them and pursue, but Maddie fears she will lose her license if she is caught. So she drives quickly and manages to run across train tracks before a train can hit them, allowing her to lose the cops. In an effort to seduce Percy once more, Maddie invites him back to her home. She tries to perform a sensual dance for him, and he tries to follow suit until she notices a rash on his back that he claims is caused by anxiousness. He begins to talk about his past while Maddie massages his back. He tells her that he doesn't want to go out because his classmates made fun of him for sleeping in his parents' bedroom and spreading rumors that he was having sex with them. Additionally, Maddie tells Percy about a humiliating experience. The next day, a former classmate named Doug Kahn shows up at Maddie's house, as he is now a realtor and wants to sell her house for full price. Maddie turns him away, as she still plans to save the house. After they leave, Percy says he is ready to have sex with Maddie in the limo, but after he tells her he loves her, she realizes he is too drunk and refuses to go through with it. Percy tells Laird and Allison that his new girlfriend is the reason he seems more cheerful and outgoing. But because he wants to be near to Maddie, Percy informs them he is not going to Princeton anymore. When Allison calls Maddie, she starts to doubt her decision to take the position. In an attempt to prevent Percy from abandoning Princeton, Laird informs her that she can keep the automobile without going further in their relationship. Sadly, Percy is in his parents' car when he switches on the speakers, overhearing their talk. He is devastated to learn that Maddie mentioned wanting to drive instead of spend the night with Percy. Percy then has Maddie come over for lunch to meet his parents. He starts drinking their wine and begins to act passive-aggressively before going out with his coworker Crispin to bring the Buick out into the woods to mess with it. When Percy returns to the house, he and Maddie then decide to have sex and get it over with, but before he can even get inside her, he ends up ejaculating on her thigh. He says that he knows about everything and doesn't want to see Maddie anymore, saying that she will end up living in Montauk for the rest of her life. Gary later delivers the battered Buick to Maddie because the papers have her name on them. Maddie later contacts Doug and decides to take him up on his offer to sell her house. She sells it to Jim and Sarah so they can stay and raise their baby there, and she is making plans to move to California. Maddie finds out Percy is at a Princeton mixer and goes to find him. He still refuses to speak to her, even as she tries to explain herself. She hops on the hood of his car like he did to her, and he drives off with her hanging on. They end up driving through a beach where Maddie catches fire from a barbecue grill before Percy drives into the water. He panics and looks for Maddie before they tearfully apologize to each other.